Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So this weekend was the sneak peek of Radio the Abyss. I did go to one of my locals. I did purchase like one box as part of the sneak peek. And there were a lot of interesting things that happened that day. Um, Firstly, my pulls from the box were not that great. It was the two secret rares were the Mimigul spell card, the charm, and the other card that I pulled, which I think kind of made up for it, was Dominance Impulse, um, which is like for those who don't know, that is my favorite card of the set. I like it even more than Fualas. Uh, so my locals was interesting. I got to my locals before they opened. I was with a few companions and friends, and nobody pulled Fualas until the seventh box was opened. So whether or not the card is church printed, that's not much to say. But Fualas was obviously the chase card of the set. Dominance Impulse, not that much. The Azamina cards were something a lot of people were looking for. Um, I did have one entry pack besides this box, and that one was this Deception, Sinful Spells Deception, and I did like trade it away. Um, but yeah, I had two chase cards that I were looking for in this set, and I did find them. Um, well, technically three. The first thing I found was the Centurion, the Primera Primus. Fun fact: I did not pull this in my box, despite it being a super rare. I just didn't pull it. So somebody like in my locals just gifted it to me. So that was very nice from their end. I do have the Centurion deck a little bit already built. Like if you remember the Bestial Visas Centurion deck that I built a while back, it's pretty much 90% built. I am missing a few cards. Like for example, I am still missing Crimson Dragon. This is a proxy. I am missing like one or two other cards. So I will get around to it. There is one other deck that I did not expect myself to build, and I did not expect myself to get prior to the sneak peek, but I did a last minute decision to pick that deck up, and I actually did tested it out, and it was doing fairly okay in testing. Um, Besides that, before I get onto that profile, a few other cards that I picked up. I picked up the Metal Morph stuff. Uh, I don't think this engine is really good. I think this engine is pretty much the same as Assault Mode Activate, if you remember that, back from the 2010 days. In Crimson Crisis, I think it was debuted. Um, like, Uh, this engine is not that great. However, I kinda am keen to testing it out. I am a big fan of Metal Morph. I did a video talking about that on the channel, like a couple weeks back. So I am looking forward to see if I can make a hybrid out of this. I think the best way to play these cards is with Dragon Link. Specifically, decks that can play Bestials can also have a big benefit out of this engine. I don't think you need to like play too much of the engine as well. Like there are a lot of ways to play around it. But yeah, um, after like getting to the event, uh, I picked up a playset of Dominus Impulse. I did pick up another really cool card, and that will lead me to my deck profile that I'm going to showcase you today. Big disclaimer: this deck was made literally at last minute. I am missing a few cards that are really important, and you'll see them once we get to the deck list. But until then, this is pretty much the deck that I've been trying out, and I'll explain everything like once I show the deck profile. But yeah, um, So it's basically Fire Kings. Um, I'll show you the profile first, and I'll explain everything. So, um, three Ponyx, three ulkanix, three Kirin, Rangbali, Arvata, Baron, OG Garunix, Sacred Garunix. Uh, this is a cute tech that I was trying out. Um, triple Ash, triple Droll, double Droll, and that's it for monsters. Spells, triple Sanctuary, double Island, Skyburn, triple Talents, Called by Prosperity, triple Imperm, triple Dominus Impulse, Statue, and Skill Ring. Busking, Baguska, Garunix Infinity, uh, Goddess, Almirage, AP, Anima, um, number 38, Dark, SP, Hita, Rabbit, Dweller, Celine, access code. Okay, explanation time. So this is pure Fire Kings. Uh, You'll probably noticed immediately there's no Promethean Pirate Princess. I don't own Promethean Princess, and I did ask at my locals, and I asked around, and not everybody had one. They could like fork over. I think there was 1% of my locals. Well, not at the direct locals that I went to, but the second locals that I went to. So shout outs to Jorge Alexis um, from Tower Games. He did say that he probably had one lying around that he'll let me know, but outside of, and he did help negotiate for the ulkanix that I was missing for the deck. But yeah, this is basically a pure Fire King deck. So I bought three structure decks right after, like at the time the sneak peek happened. I did it on a whim, uh, and if you've been watching this channel for a while now, if you've been watching videos for the past few weeks, you already know that I really, really like this card, and I feel like any deck that can play this card should be playing this card, and any deck that can play this card should realistically be doing well in the format because, in my opinion, this is like one of the better hand traps that we have in the game. I think the stuff that this card does is incredibly like powerful, especially when you pair it up with like impermanence. Like it's just a really really strong combination. As far as the ratios go, you already notice no Snake Eyes. You already notice no Asamina, no like Simple Spells Engine, and no that stuff. Again, I just picked up three structure decks. I picked up the three Volcanics, the three Impulse, and I just called it a day. And honestly, after testing, I actually was liking the deck, like the way it was looking at like I did try a few other things. I tried rekindling. I tried like these four cards that are in here. I really really like circle. I really want to find circle a space in the main deck again. But as I was playing the deck, I noticed that I was not seeing my starters like enough times, and I was just seeing way too many extenders for non-engine, and that's not a deck building issue. I think the deck looks fine as far as the monster ratio and the starter ratios go. I just kept breaking on non-engine cards, and that's going to happen with every deck that you play, whether or not you play non-engine cards. Like one game, I opened double Ash Blossom Droll and Skill Drain, and honestly, like if that's the way I'm losing, like I might as well be losing with any deck, like opening those cards. Um, Sometimes you just have to be cognizant that if you play a too much non-engine in your deck, you will like draw them enough times, and that's something that will happen with almost every deck that you choose to play with too much non-engine. Um, I was lucky with other decks in the past, like Ritual Beast and like the Centurion decks and like other decks that I was playing with like a fair amount of non-engine. Um, so this is week number 5 of deck report. There's a reason I haven't done other past deck reports prior to this. Uh, I was just playing Ritual Beast for the upteenth millionth time, and I felt like not many people would be interested in watching more Ritual Beast like videos or content. If you are interested in watching like how my past weeks were with Ritual Beast prior to this event or prior to the sneak peek, feel free to let me know in the comments because I do have like there are recorded duels with me playing that deck, and uh, I can brainstorm and theorize like that deck moving forward post Rage of the Abyss. But for now, I stuck to this. Not only is this a good deck that can play Dominus Impulse, this is another deck that also doesn't lose to Fuaras that much. I think a lot of people will be trying out Fuaras in a lot of people's like main or side decks, and I think moving forward, you have to deck build with both Fuaras and Impulse in mind. I think these two are going to be the most influential cards in the format. You're going to be seeing them in a couple of decks, and it thankfully you don't have to worry about like one of the better decks. Like for example, the Snake Eyes Fiendsmith Azamina deck running around. Like at least that card doesn't have to play like Dominance Impulse because it conflicts with the Fiendsmith engine. Um, Sadly, we cannot play Dominance Impulse in Ritual Beast because it conflicts with way too many cards in the deck. Um, we cannot play them in Centurion because we do have light attribute monsters in the Centurion deck, so sadly that's not an option either. So this is pretty much like the most available option that I had at the moment that can play Impulse. I do have and own Pendulum cards, and I think like a Pendulum strategy could also play Impulse without any issues. Uh, However, the other reason I really wanted to build this deck is because I think ulkanix really just changes the dynamic of Fire Kings. Like it makes the deck a little bit more consistent. It gives them better follow up. It gives them a better grind game. It makes your rank 8 engine with your extenders like a lot more feasible to work with as well. Like I think a lot of people at my locals, at the locals that I went to, agreed with me when I was talking about this deck. Um, as far as the deck build goes, I think it could be improved. It doesn't necessarily have to be this way. I think Azamina and Snake Eyes are things you should try to incorporate in this deck if you can. Um, like those engines are really strong to not be like to be fully ignored. But at the same time, I felt like just pure with a bit of non-engine, like could actually do the job. I think Volcanics and Impulse they're two really strong cards that just makes this deck really powerful. Um, this was a very cool and niche tech choice. I chose to try this card out. I own this card like since the day of release, uh, which was in Ignition Assault. But this is called Gizmek Kaku. The way this card works is if there's a monster in the extra monster zone, you can special summon this card. And the other effect of this card is you can take a monster in the extra monster zone and equip it to this card. It could be yours or your opponent. Uh, that's the very important part. And if you destroy a monster by battle, whatever you had equipped to this, you can just spawn it, you special summon it back. So this card's really cool. This card's really cool. Uh, it could come up enough times. In this deck, it's super easy to summon because you are playing a lot of link monsters, and you can just summon other monsters in your extra monster zone. That doesn't have to be link monsters just to just summon this card. Like prior to the changes after Master Rule 5, this card was not really that good because um, in theory it sounded like it was great because link monsters were like a thing back then, but the card was super situational against non-link decks and there were a fair number of them around. Now we're at a point where in the game where link monsters are just everywhere, especially after Appaloosa gone. A lot of people are inclined to just summon cards like, for example, Silhouette Rabbit, IP, like uh, the like a few other cards. Just to note, um, as part of their end board, and that's just an easy summon for this card. It is another fire monster, so if this card gets like destroyed or gets disrupted, like it also helps with your Fire King line. Uh, this also is like a fodder for Fire Kings. You can bring this back with Promethean Fire Princess as well. And something really cool is, obviously I don't own Princess at the moment, but you could Princess summon this back. This equip the Princess to it, and you're no longer fire locked, so you can just like keep combo extending after you're reborn with Promethean Princess. And if the Princess falls off, this card like you can use the princess to bring yourself back and then use this to equip something else and just keep playing. uh, it's also a really big body, like 2750 is nothing to scoff at. um, yeah, I really like this card. I think I'll keep playing it moving forward. uh, I chose Ash Droll, like talents called by Imperm and Pulse as my non-engine at the moment. I guess you can count Skill Drain as well. So if you do the math, that is 7, 11, 16 non-engine, which is a very good number. I feel like any number above 14 should be like realistically fine. Um, I really don't like draw. Um, but I just feel like if you're not playing Fualas and you're not playing like if you're not playing the Moch Army, you should have draw in your main or side deck because this is like the other most impactful hand trap that you can play. Uh, we cannot play Nibiru because Nibiru does conflict with Dominus Impulse. For that same reason, we cannot play Baylor or Ghost Ogre either. And you can make the argument that Impulse also conflicts with Drool, but most times you will be drooling before impulsing, and that for that same reason I'm not playing three of it. Like I don't want to draw this card as often as well if I don't see it in my opening hands, and I know that is like a geometric like uh, nonsensical issue. Like it pretty much doesn't make sense if you make the numbers, um, but yeah, I just felt like this was good enough for me. Uh, the other thing, I guess I should talk about skill drain for a moment. I think this is the one of the better decks that can play skill drain. Uh, I did see shouts to Hard Pagan. I did see an Azamina Snake Eye player doing really really well locals yesterday, and they were playing skill drain. Like I honestly think any deck that can play this card is the same thing as Impulse. You should just play it. Like it will win you more games than not. And I figure since it's limited, like I don't really have to worry about it. I did open it a fair amount of times, which was kind of impressive. Um, but yeah, at least that was it for the main deck. I really liked the deck. Like in theory, it worked out. Let's talk about the yesterday real quick. These two are probably gonna be cut as soon as I get Promethean Princess and Ambler Whale and like I already own Zelantis, so uh, after I get the Zelantis package, probably the Salaman Great Dude as well. I'll probably play those. Um, I tried out Dweller and I tried out Baguska as my rank force. Uh, Before I was playing Rekindling, and I was playing I forgot the name of the card, the Circle. I think in the future I might actually play uh, Coach King Wolfbark. I'll probably play Wolfbark in the deck, just as a one of. It'll probably be my Kaku replacement because I think that Dweller and Baguska are really strong cards. I think if you can make these cards as part of your Fire King end board, like you should be winning a lot of games. Like there's not that many decks that can play around Baguska, and something really cool about Baguska. I already made a video talking about that, but Baguska has an interesting interaction with Dominus Impulse. Like if you impulse your opponent and you summon Baguska, even though it's a mandatory maintenance cost, like maintenance clause effect of Baguska to detach, it is an a card activation. So with impulse, you don't get to detach for Baguska. So basically, you have a Baguska that stays on the board, like for infinite amount of turns, like if you resolve impulse. So that's a really cool interaction that you have in this deck. Um, so these two cards were fine. Um, and not a lot of people play like this card. I did play against Branded, and it did win me one game against Branded in testing. So I think this card is really good. The one card that I think a lot of people have not thought about, and it was the first card I showed in the extra deck, is the number one, the Infection Busking. I really like this card. I think this card, if you're playing Fire King the way I'm playing it, I think this card is like mandatory. Um, if you face against the Tenpai Dragon strategy and they make you go first, you summon this, you snipe their Senninpai Transcendent Dragon from their extra deck, and once you do that, you are no longer afraid of what that deck does to you, because this deck just has so many floaters, has so many ways to like thrive in the battle phase, um, that it will just easily punish your opponent. Um, Against like just knowing that the matchup that you're playing is very critical when it comes to this deck because it kind of gives you a very concrete game plan of whatever you want to do against them. Um, but I think Tenpai Dragons is going to be very popular against the Snake Eye deck. That if whether or not they're playing the Azamina engine, um, like one interesting thing that you can do with this card is either like if you see the Fiendsmith engine, you can either snipe the Requiem or snipe the either snipe Requiem or snipe the Link 2, the Moon Goddess, or snipe away the sequence. And yes, they can return it with Engraver and then just resummon it, but they have to waste Engraver's graveyard effect in order to do that. So if they don't open Engraver, that puts them on a very awkward spot into bridging into the Fiendsmith engine. Also against like Jubel, you can snipe away like the Unchained Soul of Rage, and that's one interruption gone from them that you don't have to worry about. Uh, Against Like for example, Ritual Beast, you can snipe away the Banshee and the Flame Banshee, and you don't have to worry about the Nemesis cards. Uh, against like, and just thinking about like very popular matchups that you're probably going to face. I think the most important one is Tempai Dragons. So I think moving forward, I will keep playing this card. I think this card is really really good in this deck. I really really like that in testing. Um, I don't know how I feel about Silver Rabbit. I am playing the statue in the deck. Um, I you know how I feel about statue. The card is kind of a brick if you don't really like want to commit to it. So moving forward, I might just cut Rabbit, and Rabbit will be alongside these cards for the like Promethean Princess package. Um, Hita is fine. Dark is fine. The reason you don't care about the not playing dark monsters is because you do play anima, so you can anima into dark. So that's not really a big deal. Same thing with IP and SP. You can just do that. I think Almirage is really cool. The really cool thing about Almirage is that if you open like Droll plus Fire King Island, you can turn your Droll into Almirage, pop the Almirage for the Fire King Island, add like your Sacred Garunix, and this was a fire monster, so it does trigger the Garunix. So you can just Garunix, pop ulkanix, and then like ulkanix summon the other Garunix, and you can just keep playing that way. Um, so I really like this card. I think it is worth a spot in the main deck. Uh, not a lot of people like Underworld Goddess. I think this card. I'm not gonna say it's mandatory, but I think this will come up, especially moving forward. I think a lot of people will be playing decks that play Chaos Angel now, uh, especially now with Lacrima Sorrow, the Fiendsmith level 4 monster. Like, I've seen people just summon Chaos Angel with the Fiendsmith engine now, and this is really hard to out for certain decks. Uh, for this deck, it's really not that hard because you do have a searchable out to it with the Skyburn. You also do play talents. You play like the you play imperm. You play skill drain. So we do play enough outs to Chaos Angel, but this is just a card to just have in case on like certain scenarios. So I don't think this card is at fault to be there like at all. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Like this is deck report number one. Well, deck report week five, first one post Rage of the Abyss. Um, I will probably play with this deck a little bit more. Um, I do really like Ritual Beast. Like I think I had my track record with Ritual Beast is really really good. I just want to try something else for a while, because I have been playing just solely that deck like for a lot of weeks now. I guess I forgot to talk about the Guardians of Eternity, but this is like obvious. But yeah, I feel like if you can afford to play this deck, obviously like Impulse and Volcanics are not budget cards. Um, but and Promethean Princess is also not a budget card. But outside of those, like the deck is pretty much three structure decks, and I think like I really think Fire Kings are going to be really really good next format. Um, whether or not they're going to be the best deck, that's very soon to tell because our format is a little bit different from OCG's format. Uh, I really think Ulcanix is just a game changer. I really think that card is like really really good. Like I don't regret my like last minute deck building decision. Yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I hope you found this video informative to your like your understanding. More Radio the Abyss content coming soon. Keep practicing and keep doing.